Nexus by Yuval Noah Harari. Israeli historian and professor Yuval Noah Harari has made some massive waves with his previous works Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, and 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, a much more modernized take on what's become important to our world. He's known for having a thought-provoking, solution-oriented way of looking at things that's just beautiful to watch on display in real time. Now he comes out with Nexus, which seems to be heavily focused on the future. Now, given the topics of his last few books, this is not a normal topic for a historian exactly, but we can't say we didn't see it coming. I mean, before we did the actual review, however, I have to address something that's been sticking with me a little. The cover. What is this pigeon for? Here were some answers from you, the people, about what this could have been on my video about the background of the book. They differ here and there, but for the most part, what they seem to have in common is the sharing of information. IP over avian cameras or homing pigeons. A quote from the author, "When is a pigeon and when is it information?" He actually used that maybe once or twice in this book. Someone said pigeon mail versus Neuralink.
Okay.
But let's talk about this book. What can we learn from it? Is it radically different from his others? And if so, how? I'm going to do what I can to answer these questions, and I'm going to offer a summary of the chapters, my thoughts on them. It is a book review, after all, not just a summary. We're going to go over some standout quotes, who I recommend this book to, and what books to maybe check out next. Just so you guys know, there are affiliate links in the description. If you buy anything through those links, like maybe this book, then I get commission, which helps me build this channel and keep making these videos. If there are any other books that I mentioned in this video, I've also reviewed those. I'll drop links to those in the description as well, and you can find this book and plenty of others on my Amazon storefront. So affiliate links, other book reviews, and Amazon storefront. But welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam, and I want to make self-growth normal, because people shouldn't have to look this information up. It should just be mainstream knowledge. If you agree, then please make sure to smash that like button. So there's quite a bit to unpack in the prologue. For example, he explained how the bigger the information network, the closer it is to the truth. Empirically, all it takes is one person or piece of information, even when everything else is a bunch of baloney. He brings up how unlimited information solves increasing amounts of problems over time, threats of AI destroying civilization, and more. Harari said that information is not the raw material of truth, but it is not a weapon either. That there's enough space between those extremes for a more nuanced and hopeful view of human information bandwidths, and our ability to wisely handle power. In conclusion, this book is dedicated to exploring that middle ground. What a mic drop. Here we go with chapter 1. What is information? It really stood out to me when he said that most information in physical and digitalized societies does not really represent anything. This is a complex, but it is a crucial argument he is making because it does not shape the foundation of the book. Ultimately, we all have different views of the world, and they're shaped by different personalities and life histories. Does this mean that when we talk about reality, we need to describe all the viewpoints involved? The defining characteristic of information is not reality. As he said, information itself is not easy to define. Harari also goes over the metaverse, saying in 2024 it seems like an overblown pipe dream. Yikes, this guy has problems with certain things. Chapter 2, Stories, Unlimited Connections. Stories are the most powerful technology we have ever invented. They laid the groundwork for all large-scale human corporations, and they made us the most powerful animals on Earth. Even though sapiens may not have been more intelligent than Neanderthals, 500 sapiens together were far more intelligent than 50 Neanderthals. All of this was made possible by stories. He went into Marxism, which surprised me a little, as well as how information and stories affected the rise of what was going on during World War II. Chapter 3 documents the bite of the paper tigers. Something interesting about the book alone is the title. The word nexus, technically it means a connection or series of connections linking two or more things. Maybe these things in the book are the future and information. He addresses the word nexus again in chapter 6, stating that it is an entity's connection to a given jurisdiction. When he was discussing tax dilemmas in Uruguay, taxing companies like Google and ByteDance, which is the owner of TikTok, for using their data to develop powerful AI-driven systems that they can sell to various corporations throughout the world. I thought the whole thing would be about the future, but 3 hours into the 17-hour-long audiobook, it has been about the history of information and documentation and how humankind has used it to get to where we are today. Kind of reminded me a little bit of the beginning of, if my memory serves me correctly, The Shallows by Nicholas Carr. Chapter 4, Errors, the Fantasy of Infallibility. This one was pretty packed. You learn about early conflicts in the development of religions. A lot of these had to do with interpretations of works written, and all of a sudden Jesus believed in something else. Then he discussed how the religions were canonized, a word used more than I've ever heard anyone use it before in this part. I didn't know what canonized meant, so I looked it up and I thought it meant weaponized. Apparently it means to declare to be a saint. You may notice Harari talks a lot about Judaism. He is Israeli after all. I know there's a lot of controversy about Israel right now, but he has been talking about Israel for literally forever. Chapter 5, Decisions, a brief history of democracy and totalitarianism. Democracy and dictatorship are often talked about as contrasting political systems. The point of this chapter is to shift the terms of that conversation by contrasting them as information systems. I love this. It's like he's turning things into information systems and saying, look at this, look at this. It's not the same, is it? The dictatorial information systems, they tend to be very decentralized. Democracy, however, was distributed, which possessed strong self-correction. Chapter 6, The New Members, How Computers Are Different from Printing Presses. The beginning of this chapter talked about how computers have begun to develop more of like a mind of their own than printing presses, and how algorithms on, Facebook in the 2010s began to choose what people were seeing instead of what we choose to see. I really don't think that Harari likes the way that Facebook did this. This guy truly is like a historian, though. He's a historian. I think he's good enough at keeping things unbiased, except when he's talking about worries of the future AI. It's pretty hard to keep things unbiased when you're talking about that, I feel like. He sounds rightly concerned. Chapter 7 is Relentless. The network is always on. The craziest part about this chapter was when he talked about facial recognition. People were caught from the Capitol riot, and less violence was ensued that day because of it. Children all over the world have been kidnapped and found over a decade later, instead of who knows when, using pictures of them before their kidnapping and then estimating what they would look like based on aging applied to their facial characteristics. And yet, AI-powered surveillance technology could result in total surveillance regimes that monitor citizens around the clock and facilitate new types of ubiquitous and totalitarian repression. It is really scary, some of this stuff that he talks about in this book. Chapter 8 is Fallible. The network is often wrong. Here, he laid out plenty of information about different computer networks, concluding that the next grand computer network won't be bad or good, but what we all know for sure is that it'll be alien and infallible. So we need to create institutions that don't just check human weaknesses like greed and hate, but also serious alien errors. Do we even have the political capacity to handle this? It's worth losing sleep over, let me tell you. Chapter 9, Democracies. Can we still hold a conversation? If you have seen a Senate or Congress hearing with a big tech CEO in the last 5 or 6 years, you might agree with this, but in my opinion, the complexities of AI are something that politicians just can't seem to keep up with. He began this chapter talking about the Industrial Revolution and the threats of survival in human civilization. Chapter 10, Totalitarianism, All Power to the Algorithms. Here is a freaky quote from this chapter. Amazon and TikTok know an awful lot about my preferences, purchases, and personality, while I know almost nothing about their business model, their tax policies, and their political affiliations. How do they make their money? Did they pay all the tax they should? Did they take orders from political overlords? Did they perhaps have politicians in their pockets? Democracy requires balance. And lastly, chapter 11, the Silicon Curtain, Global Empire or Global Split. Here he proposes that the world is now controlled by something called the Silicon Curtain, which is a worldwide code that is in charge of what you see on your smartphone, which side of the curtain you're on, what algorithms run your life, who controls your attention, and where data flows. I think that if you want a good reason to be cautious about the future of AI, this book will provide a dense, informed perspective on it. The balance and thought-provoking nature of Yuval Noah Harari's writing shines and continues to thrive throughout this book. We learn about the potential dangers of the progression of AI in a way that reminded me a little bit of Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark, but this is touched upon in more specific ways, from geopolitical to ecological, and from social to cultural, and historical to lawful. In closing, here is something that stood out to me in the closing of the book. It took 4 billion years for terrestrial evolution to produce a civilization of highly intelligent apes. If we're gone and it takes civilization another 100 million years to produce a civilization of highly intelligent rats, it will. The universe is patient. Quotes. Never summon powers you cannot control. Many people describe the international system as a jungle. If so, it is a jungle in which tigers allow fat chickens to live in relative safety. Direction 1. I kind of already had a direction direction one I just went over of who I recommend this book for, but I'd recommend it generally for anyone who wants to explore what the future of AI holds from a little bit more of an unorthodox and nuanced perspective. In direction two, if you like this book, I recommend checking out Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark and 21 Lessons from the 21st Century, also by Yuval Noah Harari. Nexus by Yuval Noah Harari. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out and read the reviews. That and all the other books that I mentioned in this video if you want to check those out too. If there are any other books that you guys want me to check out and review, please let me know in the comments below. Also let me know if you checked out this book and you liked it, but hey, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my book reviews and they don't subscribe, but if you have subscribed and you want to turn it up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to get a notification whenever I drop new videos, that would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere and I will see you then.